Welcome to Bada Boom. I'm Chris. So today is a really sad day. Recently, Ben Potter, the comic historian, he passed due to an accident. It's crazy. I was telling Troy about it just because I feel like there were points in my life where I maybe stepped away from comics or didn't know what was going on in comics. And I felt like Benny's videos were always there to kind of get me back in. He's the reason why I ever even dived into the Injustice comics, because I'm like, hey, like this tie-in video game comic, why do I care? I'll just play the video game. And then just his enthusiasm and just seeing sort of the outpouring support from fans online talking about, even people that are not in the comic book space talking about how his videos affected him. He probably did more for bringing in new readers than Marvel and DC in the last 10 years, to be completely honest. So it's sad, in terms of like the content creation community on YouTube, also the comic book community, and obviously to his family and friends. Just wanted to say rest in peace, Benny, and also just talk about sort of like, his impact. But yeah, Troy. I know like you didn't necessarily have like too much of a connection, but I know you've been watching the response the past couple days. So what's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's evident from the response that's been given that this has been how a lot of people have gotten into comics is from the way Benny shared on YouTube comics and read them and put the like the audio theatricalness to it. And what was great about it is like not only is like the content he's producing is great, but it's a free resource for anybody that is curious for things. And I think one of the hardest things for me and for most people whenever they're trying to do something new, especially comics, because there's just so much content, is, well, where do I start? And if it's the stuff that is, a little bit older, some people think I got to start at the beginning, and it's not the easiest stuff to get into when you're trying to read it yourself. So I think for the content that Benny made, and it really helped a lot of people get into comics and see it as a medium that has value, that can provide stories for people to relate to. And that is something that is it's a real blessing in any creative community to be able to easily welcome new members in. And that's kind of what I feel like Benny was as a comic historian. Was, yeah, just put on one of my videos, and guess what, you know a lot more about comics now, and you're part of the club. You're into comics, or stuff that you can talk about with other people that are really into comics. And it was just really easy for your people to get into, to just watch his videos for free and feel like they're a part of something bigger. So I think that that's one of those things where a lot of people are responding to, is how inclusive he made the community by making some of this content so easy to access, and making it exciting to access.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff, just the enthusiasm, sometimes particularly in the YouTube space these days, it seems like sometimes there could be a lot of negativity around certain things. Like as people get older, I feel like they get more jaded, and he sort of had this like in constant enthusiasm, this constant positivity around like comics and comics storytelling. And I think it really hits hard because more recently, he's kind of been talking about shifting gears in terms of um, creating and obviously exploring new things. And it just shows you just how creative he was, that despite sort of reaching this level of success, he was constantly always trying to sort of try new things when it came to creating new things. And then also too, like what we're doing right now, really, there really wouldn't be a comics YouTube space, even though what we do is different. I think he sort of was one of the pioneers of showing that, hey, like people are interested in comics. You just have to figure out a way to get it to them, to really get them
Yeah.
enthused about it. And it's something that like I feel like was a big miss in terms of like the big two and the comics industry as a whole, in terms of like not leveraging sort of someone like a Benny and being able to like share that and sort of work with them to bring more people in. You know what I mean? Because if you look at
Yeah.
it, particularly like the Injustice video, 20 million views, that is crazy. Obviously, I don't think the book sold that much, but it goes to show you that, hey, people are interested in these stories like you. As long as you have a really enthusiastic ambassador out there putting it out there in front of people, people will jump in. And that's something that's missing. And he'll be greatly missed in that regard because, like I said, he was such a great curator of stories of what was going on. He had some really great like Green Lantern lore videos that you could dive into, especially if you weren't reading like every Green Lantern. Also, like something we did, like when we reviewed Kaiju number 8. The reason I know about Kaiju number 8 is because he did a video on Kaiju number 8. I didn't watch it because I was like, oh, I really don't want to spoil this for myself, and I know his style of video and stuff. But I was like, Kaiju number 8. And I'm like, if Comic Storian is talking about it, like, and this is, I think this is like either the beginning of his Manga Storian YouTube channel or sort of like when he started to dabble into it. So I'm like, if he's talking about this, then it's got to be good. So I
Yeah.
jumped into the manga and I loved it. So, and it's been cool to see also comic creators come out and talk about sort of whether they knew him personally or they really appreciated what he was able to do to some of their stories that they were able to tell. Someone we've had on the podcast, Robert Vendetti, shared a story about, how at his kid's school, the kids were really excited to meet him because they had seen his stories be covered on COMICSTORIAN. And, I'm like, by the time he was like sort of really popping off, was in my 20s, but it's been really, you know, sad, but also cool to see a lot of people in their 20s now talking about how his videos had an impact and that the only reason they're really into comics is because of him. And then people of our age talking about, hey, like, there was a time where I wasn't in comics and the way I knew what was going on was just checking out his videos.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think you ever forget someone that uh, really gets you passionate about something. And I think Comic Historian did that for a lot of people and created a safe space to admit what you do or don't know and catch up through the all his YouTube videos. So rest in peace. It's crazy that accidents happen and you just don't know when they're going to happen. But I think the entire community is thankful for the gifts you've given us.
And I'll say this, love those close to you. You never know. Like it doesn't have to be an illness. It could be as sudden as it was. So appreciate the people while they're here. In the case of Comic Story, and I was really excited for what he had coming, and creating this podcast and our YouTube channel. I'm always like looking at his stuff and for like inspiration and sort of seeing what he created. So he'll definitely be like a fixture in my life that obviously I wish that I'd ever got to meet him. I know a couple years ago I got to meet Comic Tropes at New York Comic Con on the show floor, and in the back of my mind I was like, oh man, if I could just meet, like if I run past like Comic Story and I'm like gonna stop him. So I'm sad that moment never happened, but I'm glad they were able to share their love and their passion with everyone, and it's gonna shine through. And based on a statement from his wife, the YouTube channel will continue in some form. And also, like, he's always with us. You could always pop on the Injustice years 1 through 5 and just dive into that. And yeah, so like I said, love those around you, and rest in peace, Penny. And with that, bada boom.
Bada boom.